Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. Ramnath Kovind was on Tuesday sworn in as India's 14th president, the first BJP leader and the second Dalit in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And in his first address, he said that India's unity in diversity was the key to its success. As Rashtrapati Bhavan welcomes the new resident, we're looking at the expectations of the people. How will President Kovind address them? Joining us on the big picture today, we've got Yogendra Narain, constitutional expert. We have KG Suresh, Director General at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, John Dayal, writer and social activist, and Dr. Rakesh Batabyal, Associate Professor and also at the Center for Media Studies at JNU. Thank you so much to all of you for joining me here. Mr. Narain, if we could come to you first. After winning what was, of course, a civil, a decent campaign, definitely, but nonetheless highly political election, how does one take the high ground? How does one go to that post as an apolitical figure?
You see, it's a fact that he comes with a political background of a party, particular party. It is also a fact that he has fought elections against a candidate who was backed by the main opposition parties. But now that he's become president, constitutionally, he has to remain aloof from politics. He has to show his independence and also act as the final arbiter between the opposition and the government wherever found necessary. The Constitution has given him a lot of powers, immense powers, but he has to act on the aid and advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. But constitutionally and judicially, the Supreme Court has always upheld this provision that he has to apply his mind. In fact, when the famous promulgation declaring President's rule in Bihar was there, and APJ Abdul Kalam was the one who was asked to sign the promulgation, and the Supreme Court, when it set it aside, passed strictures and also against the President. Now, Mr. Ramnath Kovind is not only an eminent politician, he is also a person who is practicing law.
Yes.
So the first expectation is that he will go according to the law of the land, which is the Constitution of India, and that he will do all to protect the Constitution. The second expectation, which I feel is very near to the people's mind today, is that the President's election is held with equal number of votes of the Parliament and equal number of votes of the state legislatures. So he is not only the president of in the center of the central government.
Yes.
He is the president of the country, and so the second expectation I have from him is that he must do his best to preserve the federal structure of the Constitution. He must do nothing to damage that fabric of federalism. In the past, there have been almost 32 times or 33 times when President's rule has been promulgated. Earlier, it was being done very arbitrarily. The President was not exactly applying his mind, as the judge would say, but he would act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. But now that position has changed, and Supreme Court has put in a lot of restrictions on how the President's rule should be imposed. There should be a rationale for imposing the President's rule. So I expect that he should act judicially also, keeping all these Supreme Court judgments at the back of his mind.
Yes.
And the fourth, I would expect that Mr. Ramnath Kovind, he is a leader amongst the Dalits. He is a man from the masses. He's risen literally from the ranks.
Yes. And
so we would expect him to look at the problems and issues facing the common man in India. What are the tribulations the common man has to go through? What are the judicial or even the, let's say, the maladministration which sometimes proceeds at the village level, state level? I think he is very well aware of that. So I do hope that he looks into these things and tries to remove all those malpractices and maladministration techniques.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some good points there, Mr. Narain. And we will talk about that powerful symbolism of, being from the Dalit community. But Mr. Dayal, Meera Kumar, while conceding defeat, this was a statement. I extend my good wishes to him as it has fallen upon to him to uphold the Constitution in these most challenging times. What do you think that signifies? What are these challenges ahead of him?
I think I would be failing in my duty if I first don't congratulate President Kovind for assuming this high office. And also, I mean, later we'll have many opportunities to tell him of our particular expectations from him as a community and as a people. But today, when you point out statements made by his former opponent, I would say, I would like to point out two things, I mean, I have been a correspondent 47 years, and we've been watching presidents come and presidents go. There are certain abiding images in the mind. We have Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed's cartoon by my friend and senior colleague Abu Abraham, where he signs the proclamation of the emergency in his bathtub. It was, of course, a joke, but
yes,
it did portray something. And we have Sagyani Zail Singh, who practically, for a moment, it would seem, had nearly sacked Rajiv Gandhi. So, but one thing from Dr. Rajendra Prasad till Mr. Pranab Mukherjee has been a fact that all those who assumed office in whatever circumstances, when they did step into those shoes and ascended into that particular chair, all of them were people that eventually history would say that they were fair people. They protected the Constitution to the best of their understanding and the best of their ability. And if he were to just emulate his last three predecessors, Mr. Kovind would have done a yeoman's service. When Meera Kumar says these are trying times for the president, that as a guardian of the Constitution, he has to see that there is no erosion. At the moment, I could point out 3 different states where governor and chief minister are in conflict, and governors, men or women, are assuming positions which I would say somebody should take them to the High Court and see how the issues will come to the governor's meeting with the president and all those things. So there are issues here, and we are not even talking about the central government and its ideological position, the bills that are proposed, etc., all those are there. But for the country, these are times when its diversity has to be protected, when the needs of the smallest group has to be protected. And Mr. Kovind's own background is empathy with the poor. And let me again defend all his predecessors. Not all of them were very rich people, a few were, but many of them had even worse circumstances. President Kalam, for instance, he was selling newspapers. So those are issues where it is expected of the Indian president that he will rise or she will rise to the occasion. And we are so happy that all of them have risen to the occasion.
And we have the similar hope, of course, from President Kovind as well. Mr. Suresh, do you also agree it is a difficult time to be a president of India at this point of time? Considering how many voices claim that the balance between crucial institutions, is being reset. Do you agree with that?
I think that, from the very fact, that the manner in which President Kovind has been elected, there was a joint opposition candidate, yet you had key figures in the opposition, including Mr. Nitish Kumar and Mr. Patnaik, supporting him. And the fact that he was governor of an opposition-ruled state, and yet he was able to win the confidence of the chief minister of an opposition-ruled state so much that he went against the opposition choice and voted for him. His party voted for President Kovind, shows that, the credibility, the impeccable credentials of President Kovind, that he has always, stood, by the role that he is expected as a custodian of the Constitution. I think that given the fact, as was mentioned here, that he himself is a lawyer of the Supreme Court, he is well aware of the, constitutional positions, the legal positions, and he has been, despite being in politics for so long, he has never been a controversial figure. There has never been any major controversy surrounding him. And he has always been, so much so that, many people, when his name was announced, were a little surprised. Many people were curious to know who he was. I mean, that is despite remaining in politics, I think that's remarkable. And the fact that, he has, while being a very loyal soldier of his party, the fact that he has been able to maintain that once he occupied the post of the governor, to win the confidence of the the chief minister, even of an opposition ruled state, and of chief ministers who do not belong to the ruling alliance, that they voted for him. And also there was cross voting in states like Gujarat, shows that he has got an image and he will live up to his image, whatever be the challenge. That is the kind of confidence. I don't think we should be seeing, of course that's a factor that everybody would be mentioning, that he comes from an underprivileged community, but I don't think that we should be looking at the president from that prism. I think that the president is above all that. He belongs to all of India. He represents all of us. Every state, as has been rightly pointed out, that even the legislators of the state, they have voted for him, and people have voted for him cutting across party lines, rising above party lines. So I think that at this stage, I think there is a lot of immense hope, a lot of expectations from him, and I'm sure, I'm confident that even if you go by his initial statement after the announcement of the result, and also when he took over, reminding himself of the humble origins, reminding the country of his own humble origins, and profusely expressing thanks to, usually you talk about Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. I mean, even his remembering the teachers, as the future builders of this country. I think these are very significant. It all shows his entire approach to presidency. And I'm sure that, he will be a people's president. He will be the voice of the voiceless. And we all have great expectations from him.
Absolutely. But, getting to that Dalit symbolism that we were talking about, you're of course saying he's now a president and we should look beyond where he comes from. We cannot ignore, of course, the fact that he's from the Dalit community, but he is more than just that. That is, of course, one way of looking at it. But the other way of looking at it, Dr. Rakesh, is also that, yes, you do come from a community which is still facing a lot of trouble, a lot of hardships in India. Even after 70 years of independence, nearly 70 years of independence, you would expect that of a woman president for that matter. You would expect that, if a woman had to be a president, she would be more sympathetic towards women issues. And, all that happens across the country. Similarly, isn't that the kind of expectations that the Dalit community may have from him as well?
No, I agree partly, but I go slightly beyond that. And I said, what is a precedent for a constitutional republic like India when it was envisaged? I think president, and this is a crowning achievement that we have, that despite all odds, despite a very, very split polity, we have successfully installed a president today. That's a crowning achievement when across the world you have extremely contentious issues being raised. Now, president, therefore, a republic or president of the republic, it exudes a sense, republican sense, and that spirit, I think, is coming to people now. Okay. And a republican spirit is that no matter whatever your capabilities, whether you can be or may not be able to be a president of India, but there is no bar of thinking for a child in the morning. Once he thinks that once he becomes the president of India. Now, if you put a bar there that he cannot be, I think we kill the sense of republic. I think by having a person like our present president,
yes,
it keeps alive that republican spirit. No matter women, Dalit, no matter whoever we're talking about, let's not box him or her, but the very fact that somebody is there, somebody's achieved, gone there, it gives a sense to every one of us that one day we can also be, no matter. First, this is the republican spirit that he will keep alive. The second is, presidentship was kept in the, if you read the debate or even today, what is happening, he is a sense of stability of the republic, of the polity. No matter we have a fractured polity, no matter we are fighting with each other, but president will give a sense, he will give a civic signal that we are stable in some sense. Prime minister may come and go, but there's a president. And at a time when our borders are not very stable.
Yes.
We are forces around. We have internal forces around, a lot of social fabric being attacked by a lot of forces. The president sends a signal, and that's why His first signal was that India is a country of plurality, diversity, and we have to. So he gives a sense of stability to everyone, that you are safe, you can sleep. I am here, guardian of your forces, guardian of your morals. The third is, I think, much more contextual, and that is at a time when political power and economic power are getting concentrated in few hands. Across the world it is happening. We are seeing it because we are traditionally a society where these things were concentrated earlier too. And this is being accentuated of the later. Now, no matter prime ministers, prime ministers, opposition leaders, they may be very good people. They are very good people. They may be very good people, but it is not about people. It's about system.
Yes.
And therefore, what we are watching, we're seeing, is that this accentuation of power in some hands is creating a completely divided society. All kind of hues and cries are happening. In that, president's role, therefore, becomes much more of a person who can give solace, who can actually provide not stability, but a kind of empathetic worldview to everyone.
Not a tool to show the government's power, in a sense.
Fourth, we are watching every day extremely militarized slogans, where there are efforts to militarize the society. Being the chief of armed force, he can give a signal. This is my expectation, that he can give a signal, don't do it. We are a country, a society, we love, and that is our identity across the world. We love living in peace across the world, to the world, and with ourselves, with each other. And therefore, don't militarize it. Don't bring tanks to the universities. Don't bring this, that. Don't talk like that. So therefore, being the commander-in-chief, he speaks from the power of strength, that I command the power of the armed forces. Therefore, listen to me. So these are very, and we are so lucky that we have people like this coming up to the, and keeps our hope alive that our children may one day become the president.
Absolutely. Mr. Dayal, you wanted to make a
point.
I
wanted to make a very brief intervention here. I hope I have a chance to speak further.
Yes.
Because when his name was announced, and we were all digging into, as you said, the name was, we knew he was a governor, but we didn't know very much about his thoughts. And we dug into his record and discovered that when he was party general secretary and spokesman, he had said a few things about Muslims and Christians, saying that they were alien faiths. So I wrote an open letter from an alien to the president-elect, and where we discussed what are the expectations. And you cannot really separate these two discourses. A discussion on the presidency, its powers, its roles in the Republican India, and the persona of the person occupying the presidency. And it is again going back into history. There have been very few presidents other than the first few who had very long stretches of the same Prime Minister, Nehru and Indira Gandhi. The rest of the presidents have had many Prime Ministers, and each Prime Minister has had many presidents to work under. And I think that creates a very healthy parliamentary environment in which to do it. But I want to pick up the Professor's point. We live in a civil, democratic republic where the powers work together, but they're separate. We have an army we are very proud of. There is not a single soldier who is not willing to lay down his life, who is not a brave. But the Indian army works under civilian control, as much as the president works under platforms defined by the Supreme Court. All these agencies work in league with each other, controlled by each other, so that India lives as it is. And I think that signal, transitions in presidency, are a reminder that we are a republic where the army is under civilian control, the police is under civilian control, and that the generals salute a civilian president of India.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I could come to you again, Mr. Narain, you know, the day the presidential results were announced, and yes, we are talking about how he is apolitical. We are, of course, talking about how it's aspirational, inspiring, in fact, to see somebody coming from a background like this to a post. But you cannot deny the fact that he does come from a particular party, and this is perhaps for the first time that we will have a majority of a majority government, a president who also belonged to that party, and you know, and also perhaps a vice president who may be coming in soon. But talking about, you know, the day when the presidential results were announced, Parliament was discussing, you know, these recurring episodes of mob violence, of lynching that takes place as far as cow vigilantism is concerned. You know, these are some of the challenges that he would have to address. And how do you expect him to address these challenges?
You see, I think you pointed the finger at a very critical issue. Unfortunately or fortunately today, at the center, there is a majority party. And the opposition is really very weak in the center. Now, we expect the president to not only be a spokesman of the government, but also a spokesman of the opposition. Because he has to balance the interest and he has to ensure that the opposition gets its right to say and point out things. Now, in that aspect, I would like to see the president as acting as a protector of the minority, political minority interests. I would like to see him advising the Prime Minister from time to time on the issues that are facing the nation and not necessarily rejecting those proposals just because they come from the opposition. It's his duty to cull out the issues which have been raised by the opposition and see what is relevant for good governance in this country. And as you know, the practice is that the Prime Minister briefs the President every fortnight or every 10 days on important issues. That's the occasion when I expect the President to also aid and advise the Prime Minister that are your policies all right? What does the public reaction say? What do the newspapers say? And then advise the Prime Minister that, you know, it will be better to follow a harmonious policy in this manner. Because it's not only the Council of Ministers or the Prime Minister advising the President, it's also the duty of the President. And this is what we have taken from the Westminster model, where the King or the Queen, as the case may be, advises the Prime Minister on several issues. And asks him to tone down his policies in a certain respect. So I would look upon him as a protector of the minorities, not only religious minorities, but political minorities also. And that is how he will gain the confidence of the entire nation. He should not appear to be only a president of a particular political party.
All right. But I'm sorry, sir, I'm running short of time.
No, yes, because you mentioned religious minorities, I must tell you as one of them myself. Religious minorities, particularly Christians and Muslims, have great expectations from the president as a protector of their rights together with the Supreme Court. I think we really are expecting him and looking up to him to see that nothing amiss happens.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it there. Rakesh, I'm so sorry I couldn't come to you. I couldn't come to you, and also Suresh, I couldn't come to you again. But, you know, we did have a good discussion here. We, of course, pointed out quite a few expectations that we have of President Kovind. You know, the nation really looking at him for stability and continuity and also a moral presence at this point of time. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on The Big Picture. That's all the time I have now. Thank you.